95th. That is where Eala sits on the WTA serve leaderboard. Out of every single woman swinging a racket on the Pro Tour, by one analyst's count, she owns the worst serve in the entire top 50. Not a soft serve, not a slightly shaky one. The worst. Sit with that for a second, because the rest of this story should not be possible. Now picture Berlin, grass courts. The fastest, most serve-hungry surface in the sport, the one place where a big serve is basically a cheat code. And on that surface, that same player with that same broken weapon walked out and beat the world number 2. Then she came back the very next night and beat the world number 8. Back-to-back, straight sets. Both of them. No deciding set, no lucky escape, just two of the best players alive walking off the court shaking their heads. So here is the question I cannot stop chewing on. The one the highlight reels keep dancing around. Everybody calls her a giant slayer. Everybody reposts the clips. Everybody loves the word brave. But nobody actually tells you how. How do you beat the best players on the planet when you are showing up with the weakest version of the most important shot in tennis? Think about what a serve really is. It is the only shot where your opponent cannot lay a finger on the ball. It is free. It is the easiest point you will ever win. Rybakina rains down aces. Sabalenka bullies people off the court with hers. The serve is the floor the whole house gets built on. And somehow Eala is winning at the very top with that floor cracked straight down the middle. That should get her exposed. Overpowered, out-aced, run ragged. That is how the sport is supposed to work. Except the Berlin scoreboard says the exact opposite happened. So either the rankings are lying to us, or every one of us has been measuring the wrong thing this whole time. And I am going to make you a promise right now. By the time this is over, you will not just understand how she does it. You will never look at the word weakness the same way again, in tennis or anywhere else. Because what everyone keeps calling her fatal flaw might be the single most dangerous thing about her. But before any of that makes sense, you need to see just how broken this serve really is. And trust me, it is worse than you think. Let us put cold, hard numbers on the table, because weak is being way too polite. The WTA has its own serving leaderboard, the one that blends aces, double faults, first serve percentage, points won, all of it into one number. Eala lands around 95th, not 95th in some weird niche category, 95th overall. The analyst Gil Gross said it as plainly as a person can say it. In his words, she has one of the biggest weaknesses in the top 50. His take was that she owns the worst serve in the top 50, and yet she keeps parking herself comfortably inside the top 40. Read that again slowly. The weakest weapon on tour, carried by a top 40 player. And here is the kicker. It is not like the return is secretly bailing her out either. Go look, expecting to find the hidden engine, and it is just not there. Return games won, hovering around 44%, still outside the top 50. Second serve return points, around 56%, which puts her near 67th. So the serve is broken, and the return is, on paper, pretty ordinary. Nothing in the raw data whispers elite. Nothing in those numbers says here is a woman who should be dismantling Grand Slam champions on grass. Let me tell you why this matters so much. Because if you are new to her, you might shrug and think, bad serve, big deal. Here is the deal. In modern women's tennis, your serve is free money. It is the one moment your opponent is helpless. You toss, you strike, and on a good day, the point is over before a rally ever starts. Players like Rybakina build whole careers on it. They serve, they pocket cheap points, they keep their own games safe, and they throw every ounce of energy at wrecking yours. The serve is the savings account you raid when the match gets tight and your hands start to shake. Eala walks out there with that account nearly empty. While the other woman is cashing free points all afternoon, she has to grind out almost every single one the hard way. Picture a boxer who climbs into the ring and flat out refuses to throw her right hand. Her power hand. The knockout punch. She is winning this fight on footwork, timing, defense, and pure nerve. Or she is not winning it at all. That is the corner Eala fights from in basically every match of her life. And that is exactly why she is so impossible not to root for and so easy to underestimate at the same time. A 20-year-old who grew up grinding at the Rafael Nadal Academy in Spain. A kid who stopped the tennis world cold with a semifinal run in Miami. A player who just became the first person from the Philippines in the entire history of the sport to be seated at a Grand Slam. She is carrying the dreams of a whole tennis nation on her shoulders, and she is doing it while the numbers keep insisting, quietly, that she should not be able to. If you have ever been the person told you were missing the one thing everyone swore you needed, and you went out and found a way to win anyway, then this story is going to land somewhere deep for you. And honestly, that is the story I want to hear down in the comments. Tell me about your version of it. We will circle back, because here is what no stat sheet on earth can show you. Numbers tell you what is missing. They never tell you what she put in its place. And what she pulled off in Berlin only stops being impossible once you slow the tape down and stare at one specific thing she does, the thing the broadcast cameras barely even bother to frame. Take the rybakina match. The numbers read like a setup, like a mismatch cooked up in a lab. 13 aces for the Kazakh. 4 for Eala. The world number 2, reigning Australian Open champion, former Wimbledon winner, came screaming out of the blocks. 3 aces in the opening game alone. 4-1 in the blink of an eye, before Eala had even found her footing. This is the moment in the movie where the underdog gets blown off the court and we cut straight to the handshake. Instead, she won. 7-5, 6-4. She clawed out of that 1-4 hole and never looked back. So ask yourself the obvious thing. If Rybakina was firing more than 3 times as many untouchable serves, where on earth did this match actually flip? Because it did not flip on Eala's serve. We already know that weapon barely fires. It flipped on the thing nobody puts a graphic on, the return. Listen to how Eala herself described that opening storm, and notice how simple she makes it sound. Her words. She had I don't know how many aces in the first couple of games, so getting the ball in play was a big help for me. That is the whole thing. That is the entire philosophy. Get it back. Make her hit one more. Eala cannot outblast anybody, so she does the opposite of chasing power. She swallows it. She takes Rybakina's heaviest shots and just, calmly, puts the ball back in the court. Again and again. Until the woman with all the firepower starts wondering why none of it is landing. And this is where Gross said something that should completely rewire how you watch her. His point was simple. The fact that she breaks serve as often as she does proves she is beating practically everybody in the neutral rallies. Let that sink in. Strip the serve out of it. Make it 2 players just trading ground strokes, nobody getting a gift, and Eala wins. Not now and then. Most of the time. Against almost anyone you put in front of her. So the puzzle gets deeper instead of clearing up. If she is that lethal in neutral rallies, why is her return ranking only ordinary on paper? Why do the cold numbers say 44% when your own eyes are watching her take top 10s apart? That is the second layer, and it is sneakier than the first. She does not just return well, she returns to a spot. Watch where the ball lands. Deep, low, right at the opponent's shoelaces, forcing a defensive first shot. She is not swinging to win the point off the return. She is swinging to steal the initiative, to flip the whole rally so the server, the one who was supposed to be in charge, is suddenly the one backpedaling and scrambling. Against Rybakina, she did it over and over, breaking that so-called elite serve twice in the first set alone. But here comes the question that should be gnawing at you. Returning deep keeps you in the point. It keeps the rally breathing. It does not, by itself, win you a match against the best closers in the world. Anybody can extend a rally. Extending rallies against Elena Rybakina and living to brag about it is a whole different animal. So what is she doing inside those rallies that nobody else on tour is doing? Look at the Svitolina match the very next night, and the pattern just screams. Eala did not hang on. She took over. 4-1 lead, gone in a flash. She broke the world number 8 3 separate times. closed it out 6-3, 6-4 against a woman with over a decade more big match experience. Twice in 2 nights, against 2 top 10 players, the supposedly overpowered little underdog was the one calling the shots. And remember the surface. Grass. The great equalizer that is supposed to reward the cannon and punish the grinder. Grass is exactly where a serve ranked 95th is meant to get buried alive. It is the worst possible court for the player the numbers swear she is. She won anyway, twice, in a row. So we are left staring at a contradiction that just will not crack. A broken serve. An ordinary return ranking. On the one surface built to expose both of them. And yet 2 of the finest players on the planet could not solve her inside a single weekend. The serve theory is dead. The return theory gets us halfway and stalls. By every number we are told to trust, what Eala did in Berlin should not be possible. Which can only mean one thing. We are still not looking at the right thing. Here is the part nobody talks about. Go back to the Svitolina match and find the one stat that never makes a highlight reel. Unforced errors. Eala made 9 across an entire 2-set match against the world number 8. Svitolina made 23. Now actually feel what that means, because it is wild once it clicks. The player with the worst weapon on the entire tour was also the cleanest, the most disciplined, the most mistake-free body on the court. And it was not close. That is not luck. That is not a hot night. That is a consequence. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. So flip it around. This whole time we have treated the broken serve as the thing dragging her down. The flaw, the anchor chained to her ankle. What if it is the opposite? What if the broken serve is the very reason she is so frighteningly clean at everything else? Walk the logic with me. A player with a monster serve gets to be a little lazy. She can spray a sloppy rally, drop her focus for a game, cough up a few errors, and the serve quietly bails her out. Free points paper over every crack. The cannon hides 100 little sins. Eala has never once had that luxury. Not for a single match. Since she was a kid hitting thousands of balls at the Nadal Academy, she has known the truth in her bones. Nobody is handing her anything for free. So she built a game with 0 room for waste. Every ball in. Every rally constructed brick by brick. Every decision sharp. The empty bank account did not weaken her. It forced her to get elite at the exact things that decide the tightest matches. The weakness built the discipline. Say it again in your head. The weakness built the discipline. And it runs even deeper than ball striking, because she will tell you herself the real weapon is not in her hands at all. After she beat Rybakina, Eala shared what her coach told her right before she stepped on court. He said it in Spanish, and she translated it like this. Everyone has a game plan against Tyson until Tyson hits you first, so you have got to hit. Think about how perfectly that fits her, of all people. She cannot win by waiting. She cannot sit back, trade serves, and pray she sneaks a tie-break. She has no cushion to fall back on. So her whole identity becomes simple. Hit first, be the aggressor. Throw the first punch before the bigger, stronger opponent ever gets to load up theirs. And then there is that one word she keeps circling back to. They asked her how she neutralized the biggest serve in the sport. She did not say technique. She did not say strategy. She said this. A highlight word would be brave. It makes a big difference when I am able to do that. Brave. That is the engine humming underneath everything. Because here is the brutal little truth about her game. A player with no free points has to take the risks the safe players never dare to. She has to step in. She has to redirect pace instead of running from it. She has to go for the line when a big server would just spin one in and lean on the next free point. For Eala, courage is not a personality quirk. It is a structural requirement. The weakness demands the bravery, and the bravery is exactly what slays the giants. So the whole picture turns inside out. We started this thinking the question was, how does she win despite the worst serve on tour? The real question, the one that finally unlocks her, is this. What did the worst serve on tour force her to become? And the answer is a player who makes 9 errors against a top 10. A player who hits first and asks questions later. A player who is, in the most literal sense, braver than the women she is beating because she has never had the option to be anything else. If that just flipped how you see this kid, I really do want to know. Drop it in the comments. Is a weakness that forces you to get great at everything else even a weakness at all? I go back and forth on it honestly, and the sharpest answers always come from you people down there. Now I already know what the skeptic is muttering. One magic week in Berlin. 2 great nights. Anybody can catch fire for a weekend. And that would be a totally fair shot to take if the evidence stopped there. It does not. Because this exact pattern, the surgical clean game, the giant killing, the hit first nerve, it shows up in a stat line that stretches back more than a year. And once you lay it all out side by side, it is honestly a little damning. 1 match is a highlight, 6 is a pattern. Here is the line that ends the debate before it can even start. Eala has 6 career wins over top 10 players. Every single one came in straight sets. Not one 3-set survival job. Not one tiebreak she squeaked through on her fingernails. 6 clean, decisive takedowns of the best women in the world. And 4 of those 6 came against the top 5. You do not stumble into that. You cannot accidentally catch fire 6 separate times against 6 elite players and never once need a deciding set. That is not variance. That is a method. And the method did not show up out of nowhere in Berlin. Rewind to the Miami Open in 2025, the tournament that dragged her name into the spotlight. A teenager nobody outside the Philippines was talking about walked through Madison Keys, a Grand Slam champion, then took down Iga Swiatek, a former world #1 and one of the most dominant players of her whole generation, on the way to the semifinals. Same exact blueprint. Absorb the power, win the neutral rallies. Hit first. Make almost no mistakes. Let the bigger name be the one who blinks. Miami was not the fluke that proved she got lucky. Berlin was the receipt that proved Miami was real. And you do not have to take my word for any of it. You should not. Take the word of someone who actually sat on the throne. Tracy Austin, former world #1, 2-time Grand Slam champion, was up in the Tennis Channel booth calling the Svitolina match live. Listen to what she locked onto. She said Eala had been so sturdy mentally. She pointed to that final game where Eala dropped to love 30 while serving for the match. And somehow, in Austin's words, found a way. And then she named the thing the stat sheet keeps hidden. She said Eala did just enough variation with her serve, with her spins, to make Svitolina feel uncomfortable. Stop right there, because that is the secret sitting in plain sight. The serve is not powerful. So Eala stopped trying to win with power years ago. She wins with variation. Different spins, different placements, different looks, just enough to keep a world-class returner a half-step off balance, always guessing. She is not firing a cannon she does not own. She is playing chess, with the one piece everybody wrote off the board. The serve ranking measures speed and aces. It does not measure discomfort. And discomfort is the thing she manufactures, point after point. So lay the whole case out flat. Serve ranked 95th, and she beats the world #2 on grass anyway. Return ranking ordinary, and she is breaking elite serves twice a set. 9 errors to her opponent's 23. 6 top 10 wins, all in straight sets. 4 of them against the top 5. A former world #1 watches the whole thing and reaches for the words sturdy and uncomfortable, never once the word lucky. Every single piece points the same direction. This is not a player getting away with something. This is a player who built an entire winning system around the very thing she was missing. And here is your reward for sticking with me this far, the part that should genuinely change how you watch her next match. Everything you have just seen. The giant killing, the history, the Wimbledon seed. All of it. She is doing it with a broken serve. The biggest weapon in women's tennis, and hers barely works. Which is why the people who study her for a living keep circling the same quiet, slightly unnerving thought. If she ever fixes it, If she drags that serve from worst in the top 50 up to merely average, not great, just average, she does not get a little better. She becomes, in the words of the analysts who break this stuff down all day, a frightening prospect. Because now you are bolting a real weapon onto a player who already beats the elite without one. Really think about what that means. Every upset, every record, every magical week, all of it has come from a player running on half an engine. The comeback against Rybakina, the dismantling of Svitolina, the first Filipino seed in Grand Slam history, every bit of it. Half an engine. So when we come all the way back to where we started, how does Eala beat the best with the worst serve on tour? We finally have the whole answer laid out in front of us. And it leaves us with a thought that is honestly a little terrifying. For everyone else on tour, anyway. So back to the question we opened with. How does she do it? How does Eala beat the best with the worst serve on tour? The answer is the one thing none of the highlight reels will ever say out loud. She does not win in spite of that weakness. She wins because of it. The empty bank account, the missing weapon, the flaw every analyst circles in red, that is the exact pressure that forged everything else. It taught her to earn every single point she has ever won. It made her cleaner, braver, calmer than the women across the net. Take away the free serve, and what is left is a player who simply refuses to hand you anything. The flaw did not hold her back. The flaw built her. And this is where it stops being a feel-good story and starts being a warning. Look at where she actually stands right now. A 20-year-old out of the Rafael Nadal Academy, 6 straight sets wins over the top 10 already in the bank. The first player from the Philippines in the history of the sport to be seeded at a Grand Slam. She did every bit of that on half an engine. Every record she owns, she set while running on the one thing the rest of the tour quietly calls broken, which is precisely what should be keeping her rivals awake at night. Because a weakness is only a weakness right up until the day it is not. The serve is the one piece of her game with the most room left to grow, and it is the one piece that, the moment it is fixed, multiplies everything around it. She already wins the neutral rallies. She already hits first. She already makes 9 errors while her opponent makes 23. Bolt a working serve onto all of that, and you are not looking at a giant killer anymore. You are looking at the giant. So I will leave you with the question I genuinely cannot stop turning over. The whole order at the top of women's tennis, Swiatek, Sabalenka, Gauff, all of it was built on one quiet assumption. That any challenger would need a complete game to break through. Eala is breaking through with an incomplete one. So what happens to every one of them on the day she finally fixes the single thing she has been winning without? I do not think that day is far off. And when it lands, when the serve finally clicks and the last piece snaps into place, it is going to happen fast. Probably at a Grand Slam. Probably against someone nobody gave her a prayer against. If you want to be there for that exact moment, instead of catching everyone else react to it the morning after, subscribe and stay close, because we are following this one all the way to the top. And something tells me the most shocking chapter of the Eala story has not even been written yet.